What's going on, party people, college hoops heads? This is another live stream on the Center Hub's YouTube channel. You're either watching this on our YouTube page, our Twitter/X page. Either way, thank you for joining us. My name is Stephen Bagel. I will be hosting this evening, afternoon, again, whatever time zone you're in. I am joined by Conrad Pascal. I am joined by Maxwell Geiger, who you see go Wiz. I texted him yesterday after the draft lottery, and he told me this is one of the best days of his life. I don't want to quote him verbatim, but something along those lines.
It was.
There you go. And we also joined by Wilco from Fluent Ceilings. Go support him on his YouTube channel as well. Support us at the Center Hub _BB on our socials. So obviously yesterday, we are recording this on Monday if you're watching this later. Monday, May 11th, we had the NBA draft lottery yesterday. We saw the Washington Wizards, who notoriously have not had much lottery luck over the last couple seasons, win the lottery. Obviously, the Utah Jazz are number 2, Memphis Grizzlies number 3, Chicago Bulls number 4, then everything else fell in order from there. Worth noting, the Sacramento Kings and the Utah Jazz had a coin flip to determine who would have the higher odds. And because the Jazz won that coin flip, they ended up getting number 2, and Sacramento fell to number 7. So a coin flip was the difference between number 2 pick, number 7 pick. And, of course, that would happen to the Kings. Maxwell, let's start with you, because obviously the Wizards, we see the jersey you're wearing and your fandom. I just want to get your overall thoughts about, being a Wizards fan the day after getting them pick in the lottery and what's supposed to be a pretty good draft. And who do you think they will take with the number 1 pick as of now?
Man, I mean, when we were texting yesterday, Steven, and my phone was blowing up yesterday. I mean, it was like, I mean, you think about like the biggest days like in the Wizards history over the last, I've been on this earth 26 years. So in that time span, it's, John Wall hitting that game 6 game winner. It's winning the lottery to get John Wall. It's, a couple good playoff runs during that era, the Gill era, making a couple good playoff runs. But, all of those eras, ended tragically. And, just in general, being a Wizards fan, I mean, I think tragic is, maybe putting it nicely. I mean, I've never seen a 50-win season in my lifetime. I know when the lottery is, it's a calendar event if you're a Wizards fan for the most part. So, years of Tommy Shepard and Ernie Grunfeld and bad management, bad ownership that has, gotten better as the years have gone on. I mean, can go on and on about the bad draft picks that we've had. I mean, I was just looking back at the Jan Vesley, Chris Singleton first round from years back after the infamous John Wall draft. I mean, there's been a lot of bad drafts that we've had to witness. And, to win the lottery in this draft specifically before the lottery format potentially changes, still TBD there. But it was phenomenal. It doesn't even matter who we pick, just being able to make the choice, being able to, be in the driver's seat in a draft, actually tank, have it work out, after years of, we got the number 2 pick and what people called one of the worst drafts of all time, still got a guy that we loved and the guy that we wanted in Alex Sarr. But to win a draft lottery in a year that people are talking about the top of the draft being, as good as any other 1 through, 10, 12, however you want to quantify that, that elite talent at the top compared to other years. It was a phenomenal feeling yesterday. The family was happy, it was just the cherry on top for Mother's Day. And man, I think right now, if I had to pick between prospects, AJ Debonsa's kind of the easy shoe-in, but I've been a big Cam Boozer guy the whole process. I've always been a fan of Cam Boozer. So those would be the 2 guys that I would be considering if I was the Washington Wizards. Darren Peterson, I like Darren Peterson a lot, as do I Caleb Wilson, but I just think there are a lot less questions surrounding AJ Debonsa and Cam Boozer at the top compared to those other 2 prospects. So, I think right now I'd probably go with AJ. I think he's a little bit safer. The measurements that came back from the combine today were really impressive for AJ. So I think that would be my number 1 pick today. But if I was to change in this process, I would probably change it to Cam Boozer, and I think that would be the only other guy at this point in time that I'm personally considering. But I think I'm with the consensus thinking, if you will, that there is a top 4 in this draft.
So, as Maxwell alluded to, AJ DeBonster measured 6'8.5" barefoot, about 7 feet and a quarter inch wingspan, 217 pounds, 8'10" standing reach.
Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And I mean, for the Wizards too, we need a scoring wing. We need a wing that's going to be able to, generate offense, attack the rim. We need rim pressure. We need a lot of rim pressure. I mean, getting Trae Young and having now Anthony Davis on the roster. We'll see if he actually plays, but even getting someone like Trae Young, that helps. He brings rim pressure, but he helps other people generate rim pressure as well. With the way that he likes to attack. So hopefully we can complement our young core pieces and Alex Sarr with an AJ or a Cam. That's the dream. I don't really see a reason. I'm a big Trey Johnson believer. I don't think having any player on the roster is that's not elite. That's not proven would warrant you not taking a Darren Peterson. I would argue Darren Peterson would probably still be the best guard prospect on the Wizards if we took him number 1 overall. But I think just with what we need, where we're looking at an upside, that AJ DeBonsa size, athleticism, present skill set, defense. I have some questions on that end. He leaves some to be desired, but at his age, I'm not as worried about that as I would be with maybe him having those issues at 24 in the NBA. Yeah.
So I'm going to pivot to Wilco now. Wilco, this look familiar to you? Wait. That does not look that clean. Oh no. Guys, this is a disaster already. There we go. Okay, sorry about that.
There we go.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay.
Looks very familiar, Steven. This is my top 50 board, which I put out yesterday afternoon.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean, I have AJ DeBonsa at number 1. I'll stress here that it's not like I think that he's a no-brainer number 1 pick, because there are definitely cases to be made, both for Cam Boozer, as Maxwell was saying, and then obviously as well for Darren Peterson. I think, if anything, I sort of feel like Peterson could be the other contender for number 1 right now, whereas Boozer seems likelier to slide to number 3. But yeah, I mean, I have AJ at number 1 just because I don't think that his blend of positional size and athleticism with self-creation and playmaking for others while showing in-season improvement can be replicated by either Boozer, Peterson, or even though for me, Caleb Wilson is a little bit below that. He's still in the same tier as, Boozer and Peterson, but he's just a tiny bit of a worse prospect in my eyes. I don't really think that they can match AJ when it comes to that. And just very quickly, Stephen, touching on those measurements that you brought up, right? And everything that Maxwell was saying in terms of rim pressure and adding that element that DC really needs. I would say, even something that I'm more encouraged by when it comes to AJ's measurements is that he's effectively, in my opinion, a lot of the time going to be playing as the 2 in the NBA or even as the 1 at times, even though he is a wing, but just functionally on the floor, I would expect him to really take up the role of a 2 and then eventually later on in his career, that of a 1 as well.
Okay. So
I'm in agreement there. It's a good shout.
Conrad, I'm going to pivot to you. Same question. I mean, it seems like I know Wilco just said he would go AJ, and then if not AJ, maybe Peterson, even though he had Boozer higher on his board.
Right.
Is this more of one who do you think Washington should take is my first question. My second question is, I'm always a big proponent of just taking the best player available. But given, they have Alex and as of now, Anthony Davis on this roster, is there a little bit of fit concerns that you need to consider with this first overall pick for the Washington Wizards?
Not necessarily. I don't think so. I don't think Anthony Davis is long for that team.
Yeah.
As Maxwell already kind of alluded, there's no guarantee that he ever plays a game for them. I mean, he could very well. I mean, again, trading for him was trading for him as an asset. Make no mistake. I mean, of course, if he does stick around, he'll have utility. But I mean, like at this point, he's kind of like a very high end, kind of like stopgap, veteran presence. Someone try to like bridge this youthful, this youth to try to help them kind of, ascend to being consistent contenders. So I wouldn't. And all of that is to say is like, I mean, I might still be a little bit bullish. I still have Cam Boozer, number one on my board. I definitely could understand if, you're saying that, maybe in terms of like fit or stylistically what the Wizards want to become, I could definitely see an argument for Debansa or even Darren Peterson. But at the same time, again, like I would not make a decision I definitely wouldn't make any decision factoring Anthony Davis in,
Yeah.
So basically, to me, then the question is, if you are still considering Cam Boozer, do you see a world where he and Alex Sarr can play together and complement each other? I mean, for me, I do believe they could, and again, right?
I think it's a great fit, actually.
Yeah, right. And you kind of have an idea of how you want to build out the roster, right? Because now you have like what you believe is like a definitive front court pairing, right?
Yeah.
And that can dictate how like the types of wings, the types of guards that you want to surround them with, in addition to the guys that they already have, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's a non-answer. I would still be heavily considering Boozer just because he's number one on my board. But I've definitely come around to the point where like I could definitely see what Maxwell is saying, right? Like, a guy like Debansa and even Darren Peterson, even if like some of like the enthusiasm has kind of cooled down a little bit. There's still those prototypical or quintessential alpha scorers, right?
Yeah.
Those are the types of guys that you can give them the ball. I think both can play within structure. They just happen to be able to thrive when like set plays break down.
Yeah.
So one thing though I wanted to ask actually Maxwell, so kind of like circling this all the way back around, is you said that you believe there's a definitive top four. I'm assuming that meant Caleb Wilson, right?
Yeah, Caleb Wilson.
Would you actually, for the Wizards, would you actually consider Wilson at number one?
No.
Okay.
I'm kind of in the same boat as Wilco. We actually have the same top four right now, and I think I'm kind of in the same boat where, I think there's been a general uprising for Caleb Wilson over the last few weeks. And I mean, maybe even the last month or so, where, you have a lot of national media people clamoring for Caleb Wilson. I mean, I've heard only Hall of Fame comparisons thrown out for him, it feels like, of recent. I mean, basically every power forward that's played, that's made 5 All-Star games has been compared to Caleb Wilson, it feels like. So I'm not in that boat. I'm a lot cooler on him. I have a lot more questions. Defensively, I still have questions with Caleb Wilson. Offensively, I have a lot of questions. I don't know, like, if you're scaffolding out his like next 4 or 5 years and looking at what role he might, have as an offensive player in the NBA, he leaves me with a lot of questions. Whereas like a Darren Peterson, a Cam Boozer, and AJ Debonsa, I can see year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4 in my head, regardless of team, how that player would kind of translate offensively. And so I think that's kind of where I, deviate with Caleb Wilson. But the talent, the raw athleticism, there's some tools and intangibles there that are arguably better than the other 3 players. And so that's what kind of keeps him, for me, in that tier. But there's surely the most questions. And I think, Caleb Wilson's the most, his success is the most team dependent out of that group, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I really do think like Caleb Wilson has the most questions, and he's the most raw of the 3 on both ends, maybe. I mean, like, On defense, he definitely has the potential to produce the most. But if you actually, go through the games and watch the tape, there are so many,
Yeah.
he just takes it completely off or he falls asleep. He won't be in the right place. He's not going to be tagging the roll man. Just pretty basic things, which he really needs to build on and improve on that you would think for a freak athlete like him. Maybe he would already be further along, but honestly, the reality of the situation is that freak athleticism is what kind of bails him out a lot of the time
Yeah.
too, because the reads, they're really improvable. And then on offense, I mean, I had Caleb Wilson, like, even before the season started, I had him at number 4. So I've been super high on Caleb Wilson all along. But right now, I mean, at UNC, he was basically a play finisher with some, mid-range face-up flashes here and there. But it's not really like he was creating for others all that much or like creating for himself off the bounce, really. So for me, I mean, yeah, two-way potential, he would probably have the highest upside, I suppose. But right now, I just think he's a lot more raw than AJ, Cam, and Darren. Just like process-wise, honestly, the reads that he makes, they're just, way, way, way more raw.
Yeah, he's relatively a more volatile prospect. I don't know
That's a
if
good way to
that's
put it.
too
No,
strong
that's a
a
good
way
way
of
to put
saying
it.
it. But I think that's why I asked Maxwell, because I agree. Like Caleb Wilson is also 4th on my board, but I can't say I don't describe this draft class as top 4 simply because I don't see a world where I would consider taking him number 1. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
That's fair.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kind of like in a tier of his own type. Like you have the
Exactly.
top. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. At least for me, that's where another kind of tier breakdown goes, or
Yeah.
another. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
It's kind of like the, what was it, 2022 or 2023 class, the Wemby draft class. Wemby was the obvious number 1. Then you had a tier of both Brandon Miller and Scoot Henderson. Then you
Yeah.
had like at the time, Cam Whitmore was a lot of people's number 4, so on and so forth.
I mean, even last year, like I had Cooper Flag in his own tier, Dylan
Yeah.
Harper in his own tier, and then it got into VJ Khan, Trey Johnson, you know.
Yeah, exactly. So we agree we all have the same top 4, it seems like, in some order. And mostly
Yeah.
with all of us. I also had Caleb Wilson at
Yeah.
4 in a tier of his own. So then you guys know me, with the NBA front office, background and interest. I was like, okay, which realistically of these teams could we see either trading up, trading down? At least whether a trade comes to fruition or not is another question. But at least attempt. And we talked about this before we went on air. The fact that Ryan Smith, who is the Utah Jazz's owner, is a big donor for BYU and a big supporter of BYU basketball. Do we think the Jazz, be the team to make the jump to move to number 1 for AJ? But then at the same time, they also have Carlos Boozer working in the scouting department, and Carlos Boozer was a Utah Jazz player for multiple seasons. So I suppose I'm going to ask the same question before I throw out some speculative trade up, trade down scenarios. Do we think the Utah Jazz, the same question how I asked, would the Wizards be deterred from taking Boozer because of Anthony Davis and Alex Sarr? Would the Jazz be deterred from taking Cam Boozer due to having potentially, if Walker Kessler resigns in restricted free agency, Kessler, Triple J, and Larry Markkinen? Or is it just the same response as it was for the Wizards? Because we said Anthony Davis may not be long-term, though. All 3 of those guys seem to be long-term in Utah.
I think it's fine.
Yeah,
I mean,
okay.
I think you can, I mean, I actually, I was doing like my own like mock draft just
Yeah.
for fun earlier today. Like I wasn't going to publish this anywhere or anything. But I mean, I have Boozer going number 2 to the Jazz right now. And one of the reasons why I have that is because I really liked when Utah was busting out almost like this triple big sort of lineup with Kyle Filipowski, Markkinen,
Yeah.
and Kessler.
Yes.
So that's sort of what I would want to see with Boozer coming in. I would be pretty curious to see him almost like toggle between 3
Did we just lose Wilco? You might have lost Wilco.
Temporarily. Yes, we did.
Okay. Wilco, go ahead, Maxwell. I was going to... Oh, Wilco's
no,
back.
he's back.
He's back.
Yeah, my bad. I don't know where I cut off there, but basically, I would want to see Boozer in those, 3-4 lineups with Markkanen and Jaren Jackson, Walker Kessler, etc.
That's a great shout because I think that's like those lineups were, some of the lineups that allowed Isaiah Collier and other rim pressure guards that the Jazz had to really, get some stride this year. I mean, especially as the year, started to wane. And like you think about like having Jaren Jackson, Boozer, and Kessler. I mean, especially Kessler and Boozer as defensive processors, but then offensively getting spacing with Jaren Jackson, Kessler, and Boozer. And then you have that, interchangeability with Keontae George, and then whether it's Collier, whether it's Ace Bailey, whoever that other guard is next year. I mean, that I would be really interested in that. I think Cam Boozer would be a phenomenal fit at 2. I think I'm a little skeptical in the speculation of the Jazz wanting to trade up to 1.
Yeah.
I really am.
I'm just throwing the idea out there. Obviously, with Boozer in the scouting department, maybe they're okay if they think AJ goes 1. I just know Ryan Smith obviously is the big supporter of BYU basketball. That's why I threw it out there.
That's my I'm more skeptical that the Ainge brain trust, would want to move up to 2, because I think that they would probably think that they could just get better value sticking and picking, not losing any capital,
Yeah.
or them maybe even trade down to 3 or 4. I think the Jazz would be more likely to trade down to 3 or 4 than trade up to 1. Because what would the price? I mean, because the Wizards aren't going to take Lowry, they're not going to take Jaren from you. Maybe they'll take Lowry.
I mean, I think it would be interesting, like thinking about Ace Bailey and those rumors that were linking him to the Wizards last year. I think that would be interesting. But like, would you? I mean, I don't know if I would do that.
I need to see it. I need to see Ace and AJ together.
Like, it's gonna come down to what Ryan Smith wants. Like, I mean, we can talk about like Danny Ainge, and we can talk about Carlos Boozer and all these people, but like, there's only one the team here, right? Like, there's one person who can call all the shots here, and that's Ryan Smith. And Ryan Smith, by the looks of it, in some sort of way, without getting too deep into it, has definitely been interested in AJ Debinsa since at least 2024. So if he really wants AJ, he can go all in. Whether that's the right move or not, I mean, I think I would feel fine just staying at 2. But I don't know. Like, I think it will come down to what he wants.
So,
I would say this for the Wizards: if you're getting Ace Bailey, number 2 pick, and then another first round pick, that would kind of, I feel like, be the starting point, because that's the other thing. You have to ask for the Kings ransom in this draft at 1, especially if you're bending the knee to give Utah the guy they want.
So,
because sorry,
go finish your thought, Maxwell.
I was just going to say, because AJ fits the Wizards like front office draft profile and kind of the type of players that Will Dawkins typically likes more than, I would say, the other 3 players that we've talked about. So that also leads me to believe that like the Wizards would just hold that price high, because I believe the Wizards like AJ Debinsa the best.
So going off of that, we all basically said the top 4 with Caleb Wilson being a tier of his own, which makes me think. I see Andrew Schaefer obviously contributed to the Center Hub. Shout out to Andrew. Go follow him at Andrew S. Hoops too. Memphis is the most likely to trade out. That I disagree with. I'm not, but I think unless it's going to be Utah trading up to number 1, I think these top 4 teams are just going to kind of stay put where they are. I think the draft really starts in terms of trades at number 5. I really like Keaton Wagler to the Clippers, the fit-wise, but like Sacramento, it's been rumored that they adore Darius Akoff.
Right.
Could the Clippers, Sacramento, we're going to take Akoff at 5 unless you trade up for him. Then all of a sudden Sacramento's giving 7 and whatever, 2031 first-round pick for number 5. Or something like that. That's why I see the draft getting interesting. OKC has picks 12 and 17. Could they move up. I looked at the lottery and I was like, who could realistically be willing to move down to pick up an extra first? It would be the Milwaukee Bucks. Like, OKC is running out of roster spots. Could they do 12 and 17 to Milwaukee for 10? Because the rumor, again, is OKC and Yaxel Lendenborg fit each other like a glove.
Right.
I'm not expecting too much there. I mean, like, I think the link makes a lot of sense, but I think people are reading into it a little bit too much right now. I wouldn't say it's like because I feel like I'm seeing so much like Yaxel to the Thunder, but I mean I would just like play it calm on that because like I mean
but my point is if there's anyone at 10 that OKC covets, whether it's Yaxel or someone else, they could they don't have enough route spots for 12 and 17 anyway. Go get your guy. Like, at that point, you might be the back-to-back defending champs at this point. Same thing with, like, the Hornets with 14 and 18. I could see them doing 14, 18, and, I don't know, future seconds to Milwaukee for 10 if they want to go after a guy like a Day Mara or something along those lines, whoever their guy is. I think that's a spot. I think Milwaukee, given Sham's tweet today that they're seriously now listening to offers on Giannis, which who knows if this is the time Giannis actually gets moved or not. I could see Milwaukee, okay, let's pick up an extra mid-first-round pick to move down 2 to 4 spots.
Or even, like as you say, right, they need to restock their cupboard.
Yeah.
So, I mean, even if they trade down, so they pick up 2 first-rounders and they only make 1 selection this year and then trade out, and try to get, like, some draft capital for future draft classes. I think that's a good idea. What I will say, I'll admit, more as a Warrior fan, I would gladly see OKC trade up ahead of the Warriors to take Yaxel. I'll leave it at that.
Because you think, because Golden State may like Yaxel at 11.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying, me personally, I'm okay. Like, if they want to. Again, I definitely understand, again, for a team like OKC stylistically and where they're at with regards to contention. I understand Yaxel being a fit. I also get why a lot of Warrior fans like him. You see like this more polished prospect and everything like that. I'm not saying go super raw. I just think that there are a number of directions the Warriors can go, and we can talk about that later. But I don't like this idea of being pigeonholed on one guy. And make no mistake, he had a fantastic season this year. But I think all of us, like, older prospects and everything like that. Maxwell and I have kind of talked about this before. It's not a matter of whether or not he's an NBA player. It's a matter of, like, to what extent does what he did this past season with Michigan, like, to what extent does that translate? Like, sure, we know he can shoot an open shot, but in terms of, like, the shot creation, the ball handling, I'm skeptical, but should be interesting. I agree with Steven, though. I think I was looking at the draft order. I do think the Clippers would be the earliest. However, it depends. I could see Chicago if they're not trading down too much. Because I don't know. Maybe it's just because I've been like, friend of the show, Mo Bankston, and other like Chicago Bulls content creators. But like, I know they're also not super sold on Caleb Wilson, right? If the top 3 goes as we expect, like, I could understand if they want to trade down just a couple spots and maybe target like a guard or a wing that they feel is a little bit more complimentary to like the young guys that they already have. So
yeah, I mean, if I'm the Clippers, the first team I'm probably calling, as I said, it's probably Sacramento, given I have number 5. I'm also okay. Atlanta has 8 and 23. Atlanta's 8 and 23. Like, I'm okay. 8, 23, and maybe something else, maybe a second rounder or something for 5. But I also have, 8 guys at the top I'd be okay with. I don't know. Obviously, if the Clippers have a board of 7 guys, then obviously they may not want to, move down past 7.
If I'm the Clippers and I'm in the Kings, trade down and doesn't work out, and I'm calling the Hawks, I'm asking for Dyson Daniels. Because if I'm trading down and I'm the Clippers and I'm letting the Hawks move up, I'm gonna shoot for the stars, right?
Yeah.
And you just
Yeah.
invested in Darius Garland. What better guard to pair with Darius Garland, at least on the surface, than someone like Dyson Daniels? I think we've seen Garland have success with defensive first guards of the past. I mean, you look at Chris Dunn and the success that he's had in Los
Yeah.
Angeles. I think you can kind of point to Dunn and Garland working out in the very limited minutes that they've had together, as a possible, source of success. Like, I think if you're LA, you just continue to work the line because you should, I mean, you got a coin flip basically decide that you were even in this spot. I would be surprised if you don't get Sacramento to bite at the worm, especially after Acuff's measurements compared to some of the other guards you might have expected in that range. I think Acuff measured pretty well today, all things considered. And I think there's going to be a lot of teams that, are desperate for that proven creation from a prospect, and whether, that remains to be seen if it translates to the NBA. But I think there's going to be a lot of teams that are trying to trade up for Darius Acuff. I think Michael Brown's going to continue to trend up as this process, moves along, and as people start to watch the film that wasn't just at Louisville and was, and from high school and international competitions, things like that. So it's going to be interesting. But the Clippers, I like that, Steven, you were pointing to the Clippers being in the driver's seat because between Sacramento at 7, Atlanta at 8, you can call Milwaukee at 10, depending on what moves they make prior to the draft and how they are able to pony up. And as Conrad was saying, reload their cupboard. I mean, even someone like Miami at 13. Like, Miami has been a team that's been kind of stuck in this, abyss of pick 12 through 18, draft after draft, it feels like, right? And I'd be interested to see them make a move after kind of some stationary results for the last few years.
I don't want to get too deep in the weeds in terms of these trade downs, but what if OKC, who's at 12, no team has more assets than them? 12, 17, and this I think was a trade Sam Vecini and Bryce Simon came up with on Game Theory. 12, 17, Jared McCain and a future first for 5. Is that enough for the Clippers to bite? Because obviously it's a big jump down from 5 to 12 in this draft, but you're getting 17, you're getting whatever high upside bench player. It could be McCain, it could be, Aaron Wiggins, whoever it is.
Yeah.
And an extra first round pick. Yeah.
I mean, I feel like if you're the Clippers, and again, I think Kawhi's shelf life, at least with regards to him being a Los Angeles Clipper, I think that might be expiring soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably limited.
I feel like, I don't know, I feel like the Clippers' quality is maybe more important than quantity. Like, if you felt there was no big difference between 5 and what is it that OKC 5 and 12, I guess maybe, but I don't know. I think they really do need another guy that they truly feel is like a foundational player. Maybe not a franchise player, but a foundational player. Because I'm not even sure that they believe they have that right now in house. Again, like some very nice players, but I don't think they're completely sold on them. Being someone that they want to build around.
Okay. Is there anything? Should we get into the combine at this point? I mean, is there anything you guys want to discuss lottery-wise before we?
Just kind of circling back to Chicago, because going back, and again, we don't need to make this like a Caleb Wilson, like deconstructing his game or anything like that. I kind of get where Chicago fans are coming from. I think there's some PTSD of drafting forwards who can't shoot, that high. Shout
out Patrick Williams.
Yes, exactly. Pat will. But again, like, it's interesting because if they don't go Caleb Wilson there, what direction do they go? Because then again, right, it has like this weird butterfly effect. You guys were just saying it, right? Like, if someone goes, Acuff early, Acuff at 5, then that could pull up all the point guards up further up the board, right? Like, the Mikel Browns. I mean, they were already high to begin with, but could they all kind of go in succession? And in turn, like, which prospects kind of end up getting pushed down a little bit. Yeah, it's a weird inflection point because as Maxwell said, like, it's kind of weird. Caleb Wilson's one of those prospects who, in his absence, it's almost like his the enthusiasm
Yes.
for him grew.
It's been louder than anyone. It
You know,
feels like.
it's almost kind of like the Shaden Sharp effect. Except Caleb Wilson did play some games, right? But it's like, hey, wait a minute, you know. But yeah, I don't know if that's the best fit for him, and if he doesn't go 4, then I wonder where he ends up going and how that changes. Or again, as Steven was saying, does that then motivate another team to trade up? Like, wait a minute,
Yeah.
Caleb didn't go 4. Can we get him at 5? Can we get him at 6 or something like that? You know?
Yeah.
Well, that's when the Clippers really start to work the phones.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you're the Clippers if you hit your wagon too. Necessarily, at that point I'd rather just continue to accumulate more draft capital, trade down a few more spots.
Okay. So let's move on to the combine. At this point, the combine, I believe, got underway today. I know tomorrow they're
Yeah.
filming some of the anthros, measurements, some stuff like that. But we saw a whole bunch of measurements come out for some of these guys today. So let's start the discussion in terms of who we think actually stays in the draft versus going back to school. And then we kind of pivot that into who we think will excel, thrive in this combine. The first guy I wanted to start with is Tyler Tanner. Measurements wise, obviously at the combine they measure barefoot at the combine as opposed to like the Portsmouth Invitational. They measure with shoes.
Right.
He was a hair under 5'11" barefoot, 167 pounds, 6'4" and a quarter wingspan, 7'9" standing reach. I don't know, because I just keep thinking to how well Tahad Pettiford played at the combine last year. And he's another guard who's undersized. And now Todd Pettiford is still in college because he had a down year at Auburn when he could have declared him potentially been a first-round pick to early second-round pick. Now, I'm not going to be the one to say whether that's the right decision or not because I have no idea what Todd Pettiford's NIL situation is, any of that. Do we think Tyler Tanner stays in the draft, or do we think he goes? For what it's worth, he said he wanted to stay in, but of course he's going to say that as he's in right now.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say, I mean, he seems like he's talking like he wants to stay in, but in my opinion, the best move would be to go back for another year at Vanderbilt. I mean, you know, like the height, barefoot, right under 5'11", obviously is not great, but I think that was already known, you know, coming into this event. So like that's not very surprising. You know, I mean, if anything, it just like consolidates the measurement that was already available and confirms it. So, you know, good to have that confirmation. I think like the weight, you know, right under 167 pounds, probably the most problematic measurement here for me. Obviously the height is an issue as well, but for me, the weight is even more of an issue. I'm just not really sure how he holds up physically on an NBA court, particularly when like he's already going to be looking like the smallest guy on the court. And then he's also going to be being pushed around like the smallest guy on the court. So that's a little bit of a rough mix there.
Okay. Conrad, what are your thoughts? Do you think Tyler Tanner's going to stay in? Do you think he's going to go? And what do you think he should do?
Well, like you said, I mean, you're the one who's more well-versed with regards to NIL.
Yeah.
But if he's more focused, let's say like if he's just trying to do what he believes is best interest of his NBA outlook, well, I don't even know if that's best interest. I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't know how well can he truly improve his stock by going back another year. Maybe if the answer is no, then might as well just go back, right? You can make an argument either way. About can he damage his stock by going back? You referenced Tahad Pettiford, who I think a lot of us had a lot of optimism, at least, you know, all things considered, for a quote unquote undersized guard. But like Wilco said, I mean, sub 167. I mean, you're kind of entering like Tyrell Terry territory. I didn't mean to like do the alliteration there with the TTTs. But you saw just how much Terry struggled, right, in order like to either gain separation or to maintain like balance, so a lot of like the shots he take had to be kind of like fadeaways or off balance. And Terry was just a little bit taller, right? I think he was like 6'1" in shoes or without shoes, maybe 6 foot. I mean, again, right, we've seen like the athleticism, we've seen his defensive tenacity. But this is a tricky one. This is a tricky one because like it depends what feedback he's getting if he does in fact participate like in the scrimmages at the combine. Because if they're saying that he's at the very least a first round lock, not necessarily a lottery, I would probably say he should, because I don't think it's going to get better. Like I don't know, as the team around him at Vanderbilt changes, like I feel like he might, like some of his weaknesses could be a little bit more either exposed or magnified. So that would be like, I don't know how I would kind of assess his situation. But I think there were like of his supporters and the people that were kind of like optimistic. I think these measurements, I don't think you're necessarily out on him, but it's a little bit less encouraging.
Yeah. Maxwell, same question again. I don't want to spend too much time on each guy breaking them down, but any other thoughts on Tyler Tanner?
No, I'll be super quick. I think he needs to go back for one more year, come out in the next draft class. I think I've talked to Steven and Conrad, both of you guys, recently about this upcoming draft class, not the current cycle that we're in. There's a lot more opportunity, and especially in the guards. There's a lot of guards that have a lot of questions, and I'm seeing a lot of guards that people have in 2027 mock drafts and big boards that, I struggle to project being in the NBA, and the guys that I see as multi-year college players. And for someone like Tyler Tanner, like the challenge coming back is gaining the weight but not losing the speed, because one of the few advantages that he does have, in my opinion, and I was actually talking to fellow Center Hub member Julian Mendelson about this a few days ago, is that he's able to create space and he's able to beat people with his first step, and he has a unique way of being able to finish at times. But in the NBA, that speed, what I mean, his speed is not game breaking enough. It is not good enough. The first step is not good enough at the NBA level to be able to create most of those opportunities that he has in college, in my opinion, especially as a driver. I think as a shooter, his space creation has a little bit less concern translating to the NBA, but specifically as a driver, at 166, it's going to be tough. So come back to school, gain another 10 to 15 pounds, but that's the problem. You want to see him at like 175, 180, nice, a lot more muscle. And I don't know if that's in the cards for him, but I think that is the plan for him. You should go back for one more year, take advantage of a draft class next year that's got some really questionable guard talent up near the top, minus, in my opinion, a select few guys, and try and see if that you can maybe break into the top 20 next year, where I think this year it might be a little tough to get there. But I do think that he could be a first round pick this year. Well, I wouldn't.
Just before we move on, I was scrolling through the comments on Gavoni's post about Tyler Tanner's measurements.
Oh no.
And someone was like, dude, the way it was phrased, someone said like, he needs to improve his wingspan. Yeah, I mean, like,
I mean,
easier said than done, man. I don't know.
Get on the stretch machine, baby.
Shout out to Draft Express and Jonathan Gavoni for courtesy of the graphics. Obviously, him posting all these on Twitter. Conrad, I'm going to start with you, and then I'll pivot to Wilco on Okori. Yeah. Obviously, we see the measurements here: 6'1" and a quarter, 186, 6'7" and 3/4 wingspan, 8'2" standing reach. Measurements are pretty impressive. I wasn't sure. I think he should stay stay in the draft, just because he had such a polarizing freshman year. I just don't know how promising Stanford's going to be for Corey long term. So, right. Conrad, what's your thoughts about Emeka Okori?
Well, I mean, if he returns, shout out him and Coach Smith and everything like that. I mean, if he's staying, he's returning for the right reasons, which I definitely respect. But I mean, I'm with you, Steven. Like this entire draft cycle, I've been like hesitant. Like I think I had him, or I do have him on my big boards, but I've always been like reluctant to aggressively move him up simply because I felt like he would return, right? But I mean, just given like a lot of the excitement, a lot of the enthusiasm, how he kept building upon like each game by game as the season progressed, especially in ACC play. Like, I feel that there is enough momentum where he really is being looked at as a first round pick. Now, is that lottery? I don't think so. But I mean, like at this point, we always say if you're like a true freshman, you know, you need to kind of have like a top 20 quote unquote guarantee to feel good about staying in. I don't know. I feel like he might be entering that territory, especially after like these measurements, because again, we know like the ball skills, the handle, the shiftiness, the athleticism, and now that you can confirm, like his weight and specifically his wingspan, I mean, as a ball handler, as an on ball like shot creator, playmaker, this flies. This flies. I mean, I think definitely the combine has definitely helped him out here. Where again, I at this point it's kind of funny. I think when we started the draft cycle, you Steve and I think you and I were like really high on him when other people were kind of overlooking him, and now we're kind of like behind in the sense that everybody's kind of rushed to elevate him on their respective draft boards. But I think we're kind of reaching a happy medium here, where I think a lot of the excitement and the perception are kind of on par with each other. So I don't know. I feel like he may stay in, and I would understand it and respect it.
Very quickly, I know we were talking about Tyler Tanner. Gavoni also said, Tanner, this quote's from him himself. I hear that all the time. That's the elephant in the room. I play bigger than my size. The way I defend, to steal, the block rates. That's what matters, not just the eye test. I find ways to make my size an advantage. Then you follow up here. My goal is to play in the NBA. Always has been since I'm a kid. Fully focused on making it, so on and so forth. Just wanted to throw that out there as well.
But is he working on his wingspan? I mean,
yeah. Wilco, what are your thoughts on Emeka Okori?
Yeah, I like Okori. I have him at 18 right now on my board. He's under like lotto consideration, and I think he could, get into that top 14, in my opinion. Had a really impressive freshman season at Stanford. That's really what it comes down to. I mean, like how much he was self-creating, how much he was scoring, and really, doing that without much help, which is very, very impressive. I think like probably the biggest question about Okori would be that he does project as a point guard at the NBA level, and right now he is more of a score first type of guard. I think he's a willing passer for sure, but he does lean a little bit more towards bucket getting. I would be curious to see him at a setting outside of Stanford with maybe, a little bit more talent around him, just so that he can rely on his teammates a little bit more and trust them a bit more as well. So, yeah, I agree with Andrew. Emeka Okori should stay in the draft, and I would not be surprised if come the end of next month, he could be a lottery pick, I would say. I think he could go lottery or top 20 seems right to me.
So, Maxwell, any additional thoughts on Okori? I know I keep coming to you last, so I'm not giving you a chance to.
No, you're fine. I don't. These guys kind of hit on it all. I'm a big fan of Okori as well. He's in my top 20. So.
Okay, so let's quickly run through. I'm going to give you guys 6 to 7 names. We're just going to say stay or go. If we want to give a quick analysis on it, we can. But, maybe 30 seconds or so. I'm going to start with Maxwell on this one. Alan Graves.
Stay.
Stay in school?
Like stay in the or like
stay in the draft.
Stay in the are we saying stay in the draft, stay or like
Okay, technically. Draft or school. Let's play that game.
There you go. Okay.
Draft or school. Alan Graves, I'm gonna say draft. I like Alan Graves. I think that he should enter the draft.
Conrad.
Draft.
Wilco.
School. I'm lower on Graves. I think that he has to keep improving on his body. Not really interested in his offense. Think he can't really do much other than shoot wide open threes or like finish wide open dunks. I like him on defense, but would rather him transfer up to a program like Duke and go from there.
I was going to say, I know Kentucky desperately needs anybody that is a Kentucky level talent. Like, would Alan Graves withdraw from the draft and then transfer to a school like that? Kentucky, Duke, one of those like
Get Mark Pope to stop doing these tweet answering DMs from fans.
Well, speaking of Mark Pope, let's talk about Malachi Moreno next, because Kentucky has right now, from a college basketball perspective, no backup center remotely for Malachi Moreno. If he does stay, I don't know what Kentucky pivots because there's no big man left in the portal. Malachi Moreno, I'm going to say, stays at school. I keep confusing.
So school. Malachi Moreno's school.
There you go. Follow your own rules, man.
I'll go with Steven. I'll say school too.
Okay. Conrad?
Yeah, I'm gonna say school. I'm still a believer in Malachi Moreno. I like the idea. I think you saw it in the second half of the season, right, where they definitely like trusted him to do a little bit more ball handling, and he paid that off, right, with a lot of DHOs, passing out of the high post and everything like that. I don't need him like going hezzy tween or anything like that, but I mean I like the idea of him as an offensive hub, as a center hub. Right. So, yeah, I would like to see him in a slightly little bigger role next season.
And then, Wilco, what about you?
Draft. I think he should stay in the draft. I mean, he pulled out of the scrimmages, so that seems like a good sign.
Like a promise.
Yeah, it seems like a good sign. And I mean, I don't really see much of a point in going back to school and, playing for a shitty team that everyone's just going to get mad at. So.
Well, I'll give an argument to that though, because I think if he wants to maximize his wallet, go back to school, be one of the highest earning NIL centers, and then possibly vault yourself even higher next year's draft in a really weak big man draft too.
That's true.
I mean, I think the wings are the wing size is all over the place next year too. That next year's draft's all over the place.
Yeah,
I think Malachi Moreno is one of the guys who's like, he could be a top 6, 7, 8 pick in next year's draft if he just comes back and just absolutely dominates and gets a more consistent role in actual basketball setting.
Okay,
so let me rewind back to Graves. Now, the reason why I say I don't want to contradict myself. I said if you're a true freshman, top 20, should be kind of what your unofficial promise. But here's the thing: there are enough good teams picking in the mid to late 20s that I think they would pick him. And I think it would not only would they want to pick him, it would be a good landing spot for him, which is why, even though I definitely agree with everything Wilco said about the things he needs to work on, but I think those teams have the right environment and infrastructure to be able to accommodate a player like him and help him work through those, help him develop him, So that's kind of why, okay, now that we've seen the draft order, I was I kind of like this because I don't see him as a lottery pick unless he's hell bent on being picked as high as possible, which I understand. But right now, I feel like there is enough interest. And so it's just kind of along the same lines we're talking about, right? Just, again, trying to pair them for what's in their best interest, but also the team's best interest. So I think there could be a good partnership there.
Okay, I have two more guys. I know those guys like Milan Monsiulovic we're waiting on. There's guys like Christian Anderson. I don't even know is a lock to stay in the draft. I think Texas Tech with the oil money might just have $5 million sitting to the side waiting for him if he wants to come back. Koa Pete, I don't know, is definitely a lock. I know their staff just added one of his close friends, JJ Mandaquid, who he played with in the U19s, to try to entice him to stay. And Maxwell and I talked about this, the degenerates in us, when we were talking about our National Player of the Year.
Wooden Award futures.
Our Wooden Award futures, we're going to put it in July, which is way too early to put in any Wooden Award futures. If you have help, call the gambling hotline. We said Koa Pete could win National Player of the Year if he goes back. I don't know how that would help his draft stock, but a guy like that, definitely, I think, should still somewhat consider. Let's move
Wait,
to a
real quick, Steven. Do you think Tyler Tanner could win National Player of the Year if he goes back?
Oh,
Or
I think
be in contention?
I think he'll be an All-American. I will say that.
He could definitely win it.
Yeah.
But from the gambling perspective, in July, August, when we usually hit this, I don't know if that value would be worth
Yeah,
it.
but I think
if he comes
overall,
back.
I think overall he could. He'll definitely be a first or second team All American. Big men or big wings, whoever have won that award consistently for the last however many years. That's why I was a co-appeed, like on a really good Arizona team. I could see him doing it. Let's talk about Amari Allen real quick. School or draft? Conrad, I'll start with you on this one.
Ooh, man, this is a tough one.
I think it's the toughest one. I think it's the toughest one there is for the player themselves.
I'm gonna say school.
Okay.
I'm gonna say school. You just kind of, again, what Maxwell was saying, you kind of project ahead to 2027's draft class. I know a number of things can happen. Some players' stock could rise, some though could fall. And I think what we saw this year, I think there's enough. He has such a positive trajectory. I think going back another year, again, having a slightly higher usage, I could see him scaling up a little bit next season, and that just completely boosting his stock more. I could definitely see him going draft this year, but I think he could really solidify himself as a lottery pick. Yeah.
Max, what about you? Amari Allen, school or draft?
Ooh, I'm going to say school because I think there's going to be more opportunity at Alabama next year. I think it's kind of just the same, kind of the same logic.
Okay. Walker, what about you? Amari Allen, school or draft?
Oh, this one is tough.
This is the toughest one, in my opinion, for the player.
Can I just say, Amari Allen's also a top 20-ish player for me. I want to say he's 22, 23.
He's 22 for me right now. He's 22, so that's tough for me right now. Looking at it from a player standpoint, I think probably going back because I think he has a genuine chance to boost his stock and be a surefire lottery guy next year.
Okay. And then the last guy, Malik Thomas.
Oof, this is a tough one too.
Yeah. I saved the two toughest for last, in my opinion. Just because obviously Arkansas has Jordan Smith incoming next year. Malik Thomas is a John Calipari guard.
Where do you guys have him? Because I have him at 20 on my board. Roughly, where do you guys have him?
I have Malik Thomas about 25. And I think that's the spot where Yaxel and LeBaron Philon were last year, and they ended up going back. I think unless you're guaranteed a top 22 selection, you lean towards going back. And I have Allen at 22 or 23, and I'm Malik Thomas at 25. So that's why I'm that's the threshold for me of which direction can you go?
Damn. I might just say stay in the draft and go for it. Just stay in the draft.
Yeah, I want to say go back to school just because Acuff is gone. But again, they have Jordan Smith. He might not have the ball in his hands any more than he did, and he's going to be overshadowed again in that backcourt due to no fault of his own. Malik Thomas.
I think he could be better than Jordan Smith in the future.
Yes,
honestly. Maybe I'm just not very high on Jordan Smith, but I'm not super high on Jordan.
Yeah,
Smith.
I'm just thinking of the John Calipari freshman point guard. Usually,
for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I was kind of teasing it, but Jordan Smith is one of the guys in 2027 that I'm have questions about. I still think he's probably a top 10 pick if the 2027 draft were to happen, this week. But I think Malik Thomas could definitely. I think he should go back to school.
Yeah.
I have him lower on my big board than you guys, and I like Malik a lot. I think for him, he could really benefit from having the ball in his hands a lot more. And Jordan Smith is a player who can play. Who's a lot more capable of playing off ball and sharing the ball rather than someone like Darius Acuff. Not to say that Darius Acuff was negative for Malik Thomas, but Malik Thomas could benefit from having a situation where there's a less ball dominant guard next to him.
Conrad, how about you? Malik Thomas, school or draft?
Man, I feel like it's repeating all of you guys have said, but like I don't know. I feel like there is a very good case for him to be in the draft. But again, like if he wants, he really could be like a lottery pick next year.
Yeah.
You know, if he continues, like there were certain stretches this past season, right? You know, just like different lineup combinations where he was on ball a lot more, just like what Maxwell was saying. I don't know if ultimately I want Malik Thomas to be in that role like full time, but I don't mind seeing him do it just relatively more, so to really showcase the full kind of like, dribble package, shot creation. And as you guys said, right? Like, I mean, some intriguing guards next year, or what we project for next year, but not as deep as this year's class.
Yeah.
So I guess I just talked myself into school, but I really do like him in this draft class. Like, but then again, I could totally see him falling to like the top of the top of the second round, and I don't know if it's worth his time. So.
But Arkansas, I mean, it'd be interesting if they had Malik Thomas, Jordan Smith, JJ Andrews, and that's your backcourt heading into next basketball season. I mean, I think that I like JJ Andrews a lot. That's one of the guys that
I really like him too.
I'm pretty high on for next year's draft, and I think he could potentially be the best player to come from Arkansas next year. But putting Malik Thomas with those guys would be really interesting.
So we're going a little bit longer than I wanted, but let's talk about a couple of these measurements that came out today real quick. Keenan Wagler, 6'5", has good height for a point guard, but 6'6" and a quarter wingspan, I know, and an 8'4" standing reach. Definitely has some people on Twitter being a little bit concerned, probably for valid reasons. I'm just thinking, like, we talked about the Clippers fit at number 5, like, with a 6'6" and a quarter wingspan, like, how much could he thrive next to Darius Garland or like just any other small guard, you know?
Yeah. This is my first time seeing these measurements. I'll say this, like, out of all the guards who were like perceived to be in the lottery, I think Keaton Wagler's were the least that I was anticipating.
Yeah.
Just based on his play style, the type of player he is, and just watching him a lot, kind of just having a good feel for his size. Like, this is my first time seeing these measurements. I can't say I'm surprised that his wingspan's only +1, but at the same time, the way that he plays is so, he plays a lot larger than his size, but he also has an unorthodox style of play that kind of allows him to, play bigger at times, but also, defend a variety of players. I don't want to get lost in Keaton Wagler, but I just want to say his measurements were the least, who I was like least worried about seeing as far as the guards go, compared to like a Acuff or, Michael Brown or Bennett Sturts or,
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, Wagler's measurements weren't amazing when it comes to his length, but his height was good, I thought. I mean, his weight isn't terrible, I don't think. I mean, it could be better, but I don't think it's that bad. Yeah, I mean, with Wagler, I'll be interested to see, his vertical jump, and how that looks. But in terms of measurements, nothing that really, takes me aback too much or changes my evaluation of him at all. I think, we've known all along that he's a little bit of a bigger ball handler for a guard. He's not, particularly long or jumpy. So nothing that I saw here really, moves me that much.
Okay. Conrad, any additional thoughts on Wagler?
Kind of similar sentiments that Wilco has. The measurement itself doesn't really change my opinion. Now, having said that, I'm not down on Wagler, but I've had like my I don't want to say doubts either. Like my cautious optimism, my reservations, about him. Because going back to what Maxwell says, he has a very unique style of play.
Yeah.
And in a weird way, like not having as long of arms actually forces him to have a tighter handle. So that's good. But I'm a little skeptical about, again, to what extent you want him on ball at the next level. And that's why, like, I definitely understand his placement on a lot of mock drafts. I'm not quite there yet. I don't know if I will be. Like, to have him at 5, it's probably a little bit earlier than I'd feel comfortable. But I totally understand it. So nothing too surprising. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the rest of the combine process and everything plays out for him.
Real quick, Conrad, I'm with you. I don't really see Wagler at 5 either. And I mean, I'm high on him. I mean, I have him at number 6 on my board, but I don't really love the idea of him to the Clippers. I mean, I think it would be fine if it happens because he can play off the ball next to Darius Garland, if so. But my, I guess, big question mark there or concern would be that you're getting a really, skinny and unathletic backcourt at the end of the day. I mean, like, neither of those guys is really going to put much pressure on the rim, and neither can play above the rim.
Right.
I mean, Wagler plays tough, but, like, I mean, obviously he has physical limitations. So, like, I'm not crazy about Wagler and Garland. I'm not also crazy about this guy who we're about to get into, Kingston Flemings and Garland. And I don't really love Darius Acuff and Garland either because I think the defense would be awful. So, like, I mean, yeah, just being frank here. So it's like I honestly I don't know if the Clippers will go for a guard. Like I'm curious to know what they will do, and I wonder if they would go for a big or even a wing in at the number 5 spot. But yeah, Steven, Kingston Flemings. What did you make of him?
I think I saw someone on Twitter. I apologize because I don't remember who said it, but I agree with it in terms of what his like deflection rate was. You would think the wingspan would be bigger.
Yeah.
Obviously only +1 here. Weight for a guy who's 6'2.5" is okay. What do we have Wagler at? Wagler was 188, so he's 5 pounds less than Wagler. I don't know. Fleming. I wasn't expecting Flemings to measure much better than this, if I'm being honest. So like, I don't really have too many takeaways based off the measurements alone.
I was expecting him to be another inch or 2 taller. I've walked by him in person, and I'm 6'3", and he was taller than me wearing shoes. So to see him at 6'2", I thought he would at least be 6'3" barefoot. Maybe 6'4" with shoes. So it was surprising to see him this short.
Okay.
I mean, 6'2.5" is not short, but you get my point.
He's
Wingspan's a little short.
needs to improve. Needs to improve.
Okay. Conrad, anything to add on Kingston Flemings? I have one more measurement I want to pull up, and then we'll just overall sentiments of the combine and who we think could help those stock.
Can I ask you guys a Clippers question at 5 while you're pulling this graphic up, Steven?
Sure.
Yeah, go for
So
it.
Ade Mara is number 8 on my big board.
That's why I have
big,
at 5 right now.
big-
That's why I have at 5 for the Clippers.
Yeah, I was about
okay,
to.
that's what I
Damn
was
it,
gonna
dude.
ask.
All right, okay, so we all had the same hot take. I was gonna
We
say,
all
I
like
think
Ade Mara?
Ade Mara could go at 5. I really, yeah.
He's my top pure big on my board.
Well, before
love
we go
me
to
some
Mara,
Ade
I'll just quickly say about Flemings. The pull-up game is his equalizer.
Yeah.
That any concerns you have about his size, I mean, I'm not going to say it completely erases those concerns, but I mean that's how a player of his size and stature can, minimize any of those like concerns. And again, I still believe that he like. Maxwell can attest to this more than I have, but I mean, just digging into his high school tape, the guy shoots threes. I mean, like if he has to, I mean, will he? Yes, he'll need to develop a willingness to take more, like a relatively higher volume. But I don't know. I feel like the mechanics are there. It's good. So again, for his player archetype, none of this particularly concerns me. Like this, I'm with Maxwell too. I thought he was like a legit 6'3", but okay, I'll take 6'2.5" without shoes.
Maxwell, you said you haven't seen any of these measurements.
I've seen some. I hadn't seen.
Have you seen Ade Mara's?
Let's go.
I did. See
Okay,
it.
I was gonna have you guess.
maybe
I was gonna have
Ade-
you guess.
That was like the
No,
only one I retweeted. I'm like, dude.
It was
So
ridiculous.
barefoot, 7'3", 260 pounds, 7'6" wingspan, 9'9" standing reach. I believe Wilco told me is on par with Rudy Gobert. The only one who had a higher standing reach was Taco Fall at the combine, I think. And he ties Damar and Mark Williams standing reach at 9'9", I believe, which would be the second highest ever, I believe. I read somewhere. So yeah, obviously that was notable as well.
Yeah, one of the big winners for sure coming out of the combine. I mean, or coming out of the measurements portion, I should say, of the combine. Yeah, I mean, 7'3" barefoot is really, really strong. I think really it's just going to be a matter of making sure that he's durable and he can stay on the court. But yeah, I mean, with Adaimara, I mean, yeah, I think his stock is going to, keep skyrocketing over the next few weeks.
Okay. Any other thoughts on Mara? Or do we want to quickly look at these scrimmage rosters and see who we think could really help their stock?
Yeah, real quick about Mara. I mean,
ahead.
this is everything. I mean, again, I was just very cautious. Not cautious. I again, my during the pre-draft cycle, at the onset of this draft cycle, I had him relatively lower. I admit I had him in the early 30s, just because, again, right, we needed to see him develop more. We needed to see more consistency. We saw the flashes at UCLA, but again, they came so far and few between just because of the nature of his sporadic playing time. But what I personally wanted to see over the course of the season is the fluidity to his game real? Because when you have a player of that size and of that weight, right, something usually happens. If they're that big, they're lumbering. Or if you have a fluid big, they could easily get bounced off their spots.
Yeah.
He doesn't have either of those problems. Now you combine that with his handle, his court vision, it's kind of going back to what we're saying. I definitely see a world where he's going 5. It's there. I'm not saying I'm not going to call that, but I get it, So I'm very, very enthused, and I was kind of hoping he would stay a little further down the board, but I think he's going to be a riser for sure come draft day.
Okay. So then obviously we see the 5-on-5 rosters for the scrimmages at the combine. Doesn't have to be one of these guys, but who do you guys foresee being a combine riser? And then we'll sign off.
Anyway.
I mean, the low-hanging fruit's of Damara, just after today. I mean, I think looking at this roster, my eyes immediately went to Jacoby Gillespie and Jeremy Fears Jr. on Team Rivers down here in the corner. I just think you look at the bigs who they're paired with. You got Trey Kaufman-Ren, Jacob Kofi, Ogano and Yenso, Dylan Mitchell even, and then Trayvon Brazil. I think all of those bigs are, really good as far as playing in pick and roll, playing off guards. Most of those bigs have played with, that type of level guard before. And I think that usually benefits in the combine when you have a couple good guards who can score, fill it up, and also generate some offense paired with a lot of bigs who can stretch, play in pick and roll, play pick and pop, play in different actions, and are good rebounders. Most of these bigs are, plus rebounders, at least for college prospects. So that was what caught my eye first, but not necessarily risers, more of just I think that team specifically could have some success. And then, I mean, of course, you have the best player who I didn't even mention is Cam Carr.
Yeah. Conrad, how about you? Anything that sticks out on these rosters, or any player that you think could rise that's not necessarily on any of these rosters?
I think one guy who's already begun to improve his draft stock, and I think he very well could from these scrimmages here, is Rafael Castro. Yeah. I mean, again, these types of scrimmages, again, right, where these players, they don't really have any familiarity with each other. It really benefits the guys that can do the dirty work, who can thrive in, again, not necessarily chaos in this one, but lack of structure, And a guy like Castro, again, I think he's going to show off, right? There's going to be a lot of missed shots probably in these scrimmages. So you're going to see how dominant he can be on the boards. I really like how he'll have the opportunity. He's on the team with Tyler Tanner, so he'll have an opportunity to get fed and show his ability to kind of play through contact. It'll be cool if he can finish. If he finishes, all the better. But again, just his ability to get to the line. I mean, for a true center like him to get to the free throw line and convert as often as he does, teams will take notice. So again, I like that team he's on. I like that he's with Kylan Boswell and everything like that. So yeah, I'm going to say Castro.
Walker, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really loaded 4 teams. Honestly, I'm looking at the roster here, and like it's a really strong group. Yeah, I mean, I think Team Rivers definitely has the best guard play. Like Maxwell was saying, I think like their bigs will really benefit. But I probably the one guy who I guess I would be most intrigued to see here would actually be a G League Combine call-up, and that would be Noam Yakov. From, he played in the Belgian league, and he was called over to the G League Combine, got, the call-up now to the main Combine. And looking at his team, other than Bruce Thornton, really, he's the one, point guard on there who can get people going. So if he's able to do that, and he can impress, NBA decision makers who probably haven't seen him at all before, I could see a future where he forgoes going to the University of Utah and stays in this draft to become a second-round pick.
Yeah, he's been he was one of the G League Elite Camp call-ups, actually.
Yeah.
And he's definitely got some heart, especially like playing alongside guys like Bruce Thornton, Jaden Bradley. I know obviously they all are point guards, but like Dalen Swain may be the single best player playing in these scrimmages.
Probably him or Cam Carr.
Those are the two highest guys on my board. Yeah. Peter Suter is a guy who played really well at Portsmouth that Maxwell and I saw.
I'm a fan for sure.
Matt Abel is just a catch and shoot menace. Like this team, and Isaiah Nelson, like Maxwell, you saw it at Portsmouth.
I think Matt Abel is going to be able to dribble and pass eventually, because I think he's more than just a shooter. So like I'm pretty high on Matt Abel. I don't know about you guys, but like I could really see him breaking out.
You watch the high school stuff and it really gives you hope for year 2 that you can start to see some of those on ball attacking the rim, being able to have some more craftier. I mean, he was a really crafty finisher in high school, and that's what got me really excited about him going to NC State originally, was how he attacked and how he, pull up in the mid range. There was a lot in his high school stuff that you didn't get a chance to see because of how congested NC State was. I'm a big Matt Abel guy. Steven, you were saying you were about to bring up Isaiah Nelson.
Yeah,
who really impressed at Portsmouth.
Well, not only did he impress at Portsmouth, he was the loudest guy in the whole freaking gym. Like I was in the bathroom in Portsmouth hearing him call out set. Like, I'm not even exaggerating. That's why Max was laughing. Like, he was the loudest.
It was insane.
Yeah. So
in the best way.
I just think anyone on that team with Bruce Thornton, Jaden Bradley, like these grizzled veteran guards, alongside a guy like Isaiah Nelson, alongside the spacing that Suter and Abel are going to provide. Chinyelu was Defensive National Player of the Year, and I think Swain's the best overall player. Him and Cam Carr in these scrimmages. I just think that Team Carpenter, all those players are set up very well for success.
Well, that team, all their bigs are just defensive sickos. I mean, Malik Brown, Isaiah Nelson, and Ruben Chinyelu. I mean, all three of those are defensive first bigs.
Okay. That should pretty much wrap us up. Do you guys have any final thoughts before we sign off? No. Okay.
Go Wiz, baby. We back.
I'm pumped. I'm wearing my Klay Thompson jersey, right? Number 11.
Let me ask you guys one question.
Warriors have the number 11 pick, so
Before we call it a day here, I'll ask one last question for you guys. We've talked a lot about this group and about how loaded this draft is, right? And we've talked about the combine here, but thinking about guys who are not in the combine right now, is there anyone that comes to mind who would be a priority for you guys?
Priority, like what? Priority target?
Yeah, just like a second rounder, or even if there's someone who's like a first rounder who you haven't seen invited here to the combine.
I'm still pretty high on Darion Williams. I know last year was a little bit of a disaster, But had he stayed in last year, I think he would have been a first-round pick. Maybe not. Maybe that's why I went back to school. And obviously, he knows better than I do. But he actually ended up withdrawing from the G League Elite Camp. So I don't know if that was due to injury or due to some type of promise that he has. But Darion Williams is a guy I definitely think could be a riser that didn't even play in anything because he withdrew from G League Elite Camp.
I think he got injured, right?
Is he injured? Maybe that's why.
Oh no! I think he got. I think I
He had
don't wanna say
COVID.
that. I think he got COVID.
Okay. That makes
Yeah.
sense then. But either way, like, it's
Yeah.
kind of tough for him to be a riser given he hasn't played in either camp.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I
that's
believe
one.
technically, Chris Bell took Darion Williams' spot.
Yeah.
Like he was able to fill
Yeah.
in. That's
Yeah.
you know. All right, fellow TCH member Andrew Schaefer. That's our guy. Chris Bell's our guy. Who else is there? I'm trying to think. Actually,
Koasi Reeves was really good at Paul
Ooh.
Smith. And he
Yeah.
just played in G League Elite Camp. His measurements
Yeah.
came out G League Camp 6'5.5" with a 6'10" wingspan, like just prototypical 3-and-D wing. Has to put on some weight though, obviously. He weighed in at 194
Yeah, he's
pounds.
really skinny.
Yeah, 194 pounds.
How old is he though? Because he's getting. I mean, he's older, right, in age. 23.
He's 23.
Not too bad. I mean, he
Yeah.
turns 24 in January. It's not
Yeah.
terrible. No, go
I
on.
was gonna say Anthony Roy, another Portsmouth guy, Steven, that
Yeah.
we were
Anthony
talking
Roy.
about. Yeah, I saw that Jaden Henley had a good G League combine though.
Yeah.
That was another guy at Portsmouth in person that really like stood out.
Yeah.
I think he probably has a chance to get drafted in the late second once everything, sort of whittles out.
Over his measurements.
One final guy I'll throw out that I'm surprised didn't get an invite to anything, either camp in Chicago. Donovan Dent was not invited. I don't know if he was invited, but he wasn't on the initial roster for either the
Yeah,
combine or G
I
League
mean,
camp.
Just think he's super limited as a shooter is the thing. That's like my concern. But I mean, I've liked Dent for a couple seasons now, but it's just like I wish he was able to shoot the three, and I mean, really even free throws are a problem sometimes. Oscar Clough, does anyone like him?
Yeah, he didn't get any.
No.
He didn't get any camp invite at all either.
I think he's decent.
I like Oscar Clough. I think he's gonna be a phenomenal G League player. That's kind of where I'm at, because the way that he processes,
He can really
like
pass.
his I was about to say his anticipatory reaction on both offense, defense, and specifically on the glass, like it's the only reason he's going to be able to have a chance in the glass at the next level. With the athlete that he is and the size that he's at, he's just so good at being anticipatory, on the glass. That's my favorite thing about him.
Yeah, he's definitely like in my list of like priority UDFAs. And I don't say that like pejoratively. It's like, okay, well, what's the difference then between like a late second rounder and a UDFA? Well, I don't know. For me, a late second rounder, you at least want to believe that they should warrant being signed to like a rookie exception or something like that. I'm not sure I'm there with Clough. One guy who didn't make the actual draft combine, but I believe he went to the G League elite camp, was Nate Biddle.
Yeah.
I know Oregon had like a shitty season, but I don't think he's a shitty player. You know what I'm saying? Or like, I think unfortunately that kind of soured people's perception of, at least some people's perception. I know there's another crowd that's extremely high on him, but again, there should be a happy medium there. I think like he should at least
measured really well too, 7'6" wingspan.
Yeah, I would still have him like, I don't know, early to mid second round. Like for people who kind of like just have him completely off their top 60, I'm not there. I think he's still very much in like that 40s range, So yeah.
I mean, I'm just looking at his measurements right now, Conrad. I mean, without shoes, 6'11 and a half, 7'6" wingspan, 254 pounds. That's, really good center size, obviously.
Cade Tyson was another player that I'm probably higher on than most people.
Really broke out this season. Had a really good season.
Yeah, I don't know how well it's going to translate to the NBA, if at all. But he was underwhelming at Portsmouth, which is unfortunate.
Okay. Anything else?
No, but I mean, this is where the draft sickos come into play. Like this is like the interest that's the segment where like, okay, go to work.
Yeah.
So
Okay. So
Wait, did Larea get invited to G League or NBA Combine?
He got
So
to
he
the
did.
combine, but he's
did.
still playing.
So okay, I just wanted to make sure he got invited though. I know he
Oh, yeah.
wasn't there, but he got invited. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to the actual draft combine, but his
This
team
is-
is still competing. So
Cool.
And
I knew he was still playing, but I didn't know if he got invited or what. Because if he didn't get invited, I would have been.
he's still
You
in
know
my
what I mean.
lottery. Nothing's ever changed. Nothing. No.
I know you're higher. I have him in my mid-20s. Where are you on him, Wilco?
Right now, I want to say I have him at 20 or 21. Let me just double check. I have him at 21, but there is a chance. I mean, because I still have to dig into his tape from the second half of the season. I haven't really had much time to do that. There's probably a chance that he gets back into like my lotto considerations here, because like to start the season, I had him at number 7, I think I want to say, and then I was a little unsure about how his playing time was kind of shaping out for a while.
Fair.
But then like, I was looking at his numbers, and it's like basically every time he plays more than 15 minutes a game, I mean, he's really producing. So yeah, I'll probably end up fairly high on him.
Top 10 for me. Still top 10.
Steven, do you have any thoughts on Sergio?
Honestly, I haven't watched the international guys as much as I would like to. I'm so consumed with the college stuff I'm doing and then pivoting that into drafts. I know
Sure, you
it's
just got really busy
Yeah.
recently too.
Yeah. So yeah, I wish I had more to contribute, but I don't.
You got big things coming though. You got big things working right now.
So okay, that's pretty much all we have. So you could follow us on all socials: YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at the @CenterHub_BB. You could follow Wilco. I have no idea what you're doing.
No, I'm
Use
just
code-
pointing to my tag. I'm just pointing to my own handle.
I
You
got
can
you.
follow my handle as well.
You could use code TCH for $30 off CBB Analytics. That's either one free month or $30 off a year-long subscription.
$30 off, not 30% off.
Not 30% off, as Julian would say. You could follow Conrad at CP3_777. You can follow me on Twitter at @the_NBAGEL. That's NBAGELL. College coaches, if you're listening, please DM me. I have multiple NIL clients that I'm working on getting signed to all levels. So please, at @the_NBAGEL. That's NBAGELL. You can follow Maxwell at Hoops Disciple. The O's or zeros in hoops. And then you can follow Wilco at Wilco MCV, and go follow the Floor and Ceilings YouTube channel wherever you listen to YouTube or anything like that. Bird Rights, One and Done, rate and review, Apple Podcast, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. I think that's everything. So thank you guys for listening, and we will talk to you guys soon. Thanks for watching.